heroes proved in liberating strife.
Today we're talking with Luther Z. Heath Jr. He was born on December 10th, 1920. He served in World War II in the Army. The highest rank he achieved was private first class. Today is January 24th, 2011, in Valley, Alabama. My name is Paula Kirkpatrick. I am not any relationship to Mr. Heath. Also present is Mr. Crew Pitts, who's our videographer. This interview is being conducted for the Veterans History Project and the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress. Mr. Heath, thank you for coming in and talking with us.
Well, thank you.
Now, you were born back in Chambers County in 1920.
Yes.
And you went to elementary and high school.
At Fredonia.
In Fredonia.
Fredonia Elementary School.
Elementary school, okay.
And then I went to Ridge Grove for a couple of years. I finished high school in Lafayette.
Okay. What did you do after high school?
I enlisted in the Civilian Conservation Corps, and we went to Oregon and in Prineville, Oregon, in Ochoco National Forest, and built telephone lines through there and fought forest fires.
My goodness, now did you have any experience doing any of that prior to going? Did they teach you everything once you got there?
Well, I worked on a telephone line crew.
Prior to going to Oregon, you already had some experience on the telephone line?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. So they taught, when you got to Oregon, they taught you how to work on those telephone lines and fight those forest fires and so forth?
Yeah.
Okay. How long did you do that?
About 6 months.
And then what happened then?
I got out and came back home, and the federal government had set up a program for trained defense workers. I got into that and went to Auburn, API Institute in Auburn, which is now Auburn University. I took a course in sheet metal work, and from there I went to Mobile and went to work in a shipyard building warships, built destroyers.
Wow. Well, what parts of the ships did you work on?
Well, I worked on the installation for a while, and then I got into the layout department where I made patterns for the ventilation system, the ductwork.
Okay.
And that about winds it up on that part there. And then I got drafted.
Oh, okay. Well, how long were you working in the shipyards doing the metal work?
From about August of 1941 until June of 44.
Did you like doing that work on the destroyers?
Oh, yes, yes. That followed me up my work later in life.
Great. Okay. Well, you said you were drafted then in June of 44.
Yes.
And were you ready to go when you received the draft notice?
I wasn't really ready to go, but I went.
Your number was up.
Yeah, I had 3 or 4 deferments, 6-month deferments. And when I was 23 at the time I got drafted. And at that time, they said nobody 26 and under could be deferred. So I was a leaderman at that time.
A leaderman.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how did you get the deferments earlier? How did you get the deferments earlier?
Well, you ask for them.
You just ask and...
You ask and tell them where you're working.
Okay. And because you were working building destroyers, they gave you deferments.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Well, what happened after you were drafted? When did you have to report? And where did you go? Where did you have
I
to report?
reported in July
Okay.
and went to Anniston.
Okay.
And from there, they assigned us to where we're going to take basic training.
Okay.
And I
Were you-
took basic training in Fort Blandon, Florida.
Okay. What was basic training? Was it difficult? Was it physically
Well,
strenuous?
It's pretty strenuous, yeah. Most especially down there, it was sand. You walk 2-3 steps to slide it back one.
Oh, no. How long was basic training? It's about 6
It's
months?
17 weeks.
17 weeks. Okay. Were you happy that you were put in the Army, or had you hoped that you would be in the Air Force or the Marines or the Navy?
I asked to be in the Navy,
Uh-huh.
but they had the invasion, and a lot of people got lost
Okay.
on the beaches.
And which
so-
invasion are you talking about? The
Here in Germany.
invasion of Germany?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they invaded both the coast of France,
Okay.
and so they needed replacements. So I got assigned to the Army.
Okay. And so you finished your basic training then, and you were in the Army. So what were your next orders? Where did you go after that?
Well, I got on a ship at New York Harbor on the 25th of December,
Christmas Day.
1944. I spent Christmas Day in the harbor in New York.
Now, were you staying in contact with your family? Were they still, your mom and dad, still in Chambers County?
Yes,
Okay.
and my wife was there too.
Oh, you had already gotten married, so.
I got married on March the 7th, 1942,
Oh, my goodness.
and we had one child at that time.
So you left a wife and a child as
Yes.
well as your parents.
Yeah, with her
Oh.
parents.
Mm-hmm. So you spent Christmas Day then in New York in the harbor port
On a troop ship.
on what ship?
On a troop ship.
On a troop ship. Do you know where you were headed?
Yes.
Where did they send you?
Well, we headed to Europe, and we landed in Le Havre, France. Of course, the invasion had already been going on, so then they put us on a boxcar and went to a place in Belgium where the replacement depot.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I was assigned to the 8th Infantry Division, a 121 Regiment, 3rd Battalion, H Company.
And did you know any of the soldiers?
No, when I went to our replacement, I didn't know anyone.
Oh my! Were you scared? I mean,
Well,
you're 23.
that's it. You was pretty well scared, yes.
And after you were placed in that regiment, in that division, what'd you do next? Where did you go? Did you set up camp, or did you have to go somewhere else? What-
Oh, we were a mortar squad, and when you mean what did you do? How you?
So you were part of the mortar squad. Had you already received training?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I got that in basic,
Oh, okay.
and we went in combat.
Okay. Well, what all, being in mortar, what all did that mean? What did you specifically do?
Prepare the ammunition
Okay.
for shooting.
Okay.
So you had to put the what you call increments on the mortars and get ready to pull the fuses off when you got ready to fire the shells.
Okay. So how many, were there a lot of soldiers who were doing what you were doing?
In my squad,
Yes.
they were about, I'll say, probably 6 or 7.
Okay. How large was your squad?
That's I guess about 12.
Okay. And so your squad then was ordered to the front lines?
Yes, we usually set up behind the front line,
Uh-huh.
and at that time, we set up behind a house or something and shoot over it. We weren't up on the trenches where the rest of them were.
Okay. So because you were working with the mortar, you were able to stay farther back.
Yes.
Okay. So I guess that gave you a little bit of a somewhat sense of safety,
Yeah.
considering where you were.
That's right.
Well, how long were you there fighting on the front lines?
Until the war was over.
My goodness. Okay, because that was when would you say that you actually then? You said December 25th. You left New York, and you went to France.
Yeah, we landed there around the 15th or 14th or 15th of January.
January of
Yes.
45.
45.
Okay. And then you stayed there on the battlefield for several months then.
Yes.
What was it like being on the battlefield then for that long period of time? Did you?
Well, we stopped a few times in the west areas,
Uh-huh.
but the worst thing about it was there was snow on the ground the whole complete time we were over there.
Oh, my goodness. So did you have plenty of blankets or the right kind of
we had
shoes?
blankets and the shoes. We had
Okay.
everything we needed. The big heavy overcoats.
But you had to haul that heavy gear whenever you moved.
Yes, you carried it with you.
Yeah.
Field pack.
The field pack. How much did your field pack weigh?
Oh, the one we used in battle, I probably weighed about 10 or 15 pounds.
Okay.
But we left all the other stuff. We didn't carry it with us after we got there.
Oh, what kind of things did you
Except that we
leave?
had your blankets and socks and things like that. You carried it with you, but the uniforms you
Uh-huh.
didn't carry that.
Oh, okay.
You discarded that.
Well, what did you do for food? What type of rations did you have to keep you going?
It's K
K
ration.
rations. Tell me a little bit about those.
Well, they came in a cardboard carton, and they had bouillon and cheese and crackers and things like that.
Uh-huh.
You take the bouillon and put it in your canteen cup, and you'll probably find you had some kind of meat in a can, and you'd open that up and put it in your cup and tin can cup and maybe find an onion in a garden or something and make a stew out of it.
Oh my! So you had to get kind of creative with what you could
Yeah.
find in the area. Okay. Were there a lot of farm lands that you saw?
There was a lot of gardens.
A lot of gardens. Okay.
The thing about it, all the civilians were gone. There were no civilians. Maybe 2 or 3 in a town. They left and went in front of us, got gone as we advanced. And of course, right near the end of the wall, they started coming back. The Russians were coming in from their side,
Mm-hmm.
and so the civilians came back, and of course, along about May the 2nd, 45, Germany gave up.
Mm-hmm.
And just before they gave up, our outfit met the Russians,
Oh.
and of course, then we pulled back, and that was about it. But anyway, we were in Schwerin, Germany, just before the end of the war, and standing on the street, and a bunch of a bunch of German soldiers in formation come marching down the street. They had give up, and there was a lot of them.
Oh my goodness. So were you part of the group then that took them prisoner?
Yes.
What all did you do? Were you prepared? Was your group prepared to take prisoners?
Well, you had to do anything. I wound up in a little town named Fredericksdale, sitting behind a 30 caliber machine gun in the road, guarding a bunch of prisoners out in the woods, really on the side of the road to give up.
Oh my goodness. So they pretty much knew the war was about over, so
Yes.
they just went ahead and surrendered.
Yes.
Okay.
They were running from the Russians.
Oh, okay.
They didn't like them, but
Uh-huh.
they had done so many barbaric things to the Russians when they were fighting them. That they didn't want to do anything with them.
Well, how long then was it, how long did you have those Germans as prisoners?
Not very, just a day or two.
Oh, okay. All right.
And they moved them back to, that's what they call the staging area.
Uh-huh. Did you ever get close to them? Did you ever
yes.
talk with them?
You're forbidden to talk to.
Oh, you were forbidden to talk to them.
You
Okay.
couldn't talk to civilians either.
Okay.
Right.
And you said that you ran head on into the Russians. Tell me about that day that you ran into them.
Well, I actually didn't see them. Was the advanced units of my outfit saw them.
Okay.
I was glad it was over.
Okay.
And then we moved back to France, a place in France, and finally boarded ship to come home. We were scheduled to invade Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So we came back to the States, and we were stationed at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and we started training for the invasion.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, in the meantime, I got home in June of '45. Took a 30-day furlough. So when I started back to camp, they dropped the atomic bomb.
Oh.
Man, this thing's over now. I'm gonna come home. Then they dropped the second atomic bomb, but we still trained to make that invasion.
Uh-huh.
And then they broke up my division and deactivated them, the 8th Infantry Division, and sent me to the 5th Infantry Division. And we still done training, but not for the invasion. I didn't have enough points to get out earlier. You had to have points.
Right.
I only had 42, so I had to stay on in a while.
How many points did it take to get out?
Well, some of them had 100 points.
Oh, my goodness.
When I first went in, one of the top sergeant in our outfit, I think he had over 100 points. And
Wow.
they sent him home, they rotated him home right away.
Uh-huh.
And there were a lot of them got rotated home from kind of points.
But you had to stay in a bit longer.
I had to stay in a bit longer.
And so what did they train you to do?
They still trained mortar. I still trained
Still
for mortar.
Okay. And where did you, because you said they moved you, because they broke up your squadron,
Well, division.
your division, and put you in another division. And where did you go then?
Went to Camp Campbell, Kentucky.
Okay. And how long were you there?
Oh, I'd say 2 or 3 months.
And then where did they send you?
And then I got discharged.
Oh my goodness, that was a happy day for you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, during this whole time you were in the military, were you able to get letters from your wife and your parents fairly regularly?
Yes. Now, my wife sent me a package, a Christmas package. And that, while I was overseas, that thing went overseas and came back to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, maybe maybe a couple of months after Christmas.
Oh,
I received it.
Did it have different stamps where you could see where all it had been?
Well, do I?
How could you tell where all it had been? Did they have different stamps on it?
No, I don't know how they did it. They traced the thing
traced
back.
it.
I don't know how they did it.
Well,
There's a box was pretty well torn up. Time it got there.
oh no. Well, now the war during the service and with your squadron of 12 people, and you were together for a long time. Did you develop some relationships with them?
Oh yes, we pretty close.
Did you stay close after the war, or did you stay in contact?
Some of us we wrote each other. Got some a Christmas card or something like that.
Okay.
But my regiment was originally old Georgia National Guard regiment, and but there were a lot of people from different areas was in there. I guess they had to fill it up. And a lot of people got wounded and had to get out.
When you were in France and in Germany, was your entire time spent on the battlefield, or did you have any time to actually get some rest or go anywhere?
We didn't go anywhere, but we had times when we weren't on the battlefield. We take over a house.
Yeah.
First in France, before I got in there, they were out in the field mostly. But in Germany, we take over a house and stay in it.
Ah, so you actually had real beds that you could sleep in, and kitchens that you could cook in?
Yeah, we had stoves to cook in. We cooked in some of the stoves, some of the houses. Most every house that I saw, well, the roof would be blown off of it.
Oh.
And well, it was mostly demolished, but you could get in the basement. Most every house had a basement, and we could stay in those. And but some of the houses, you could had stuff where you could, farmhouses most especially, where you could find potatoes most especially. And we'd fry those potatoes. And
you didn't realize you were going to be cooking, did you?
Well, I did some of the cooking myself. I did the frying of potatoes.
Well, thinking back on your time in the service, what do you think is the most memorable moments or events when you think back?
The most memorable moments we were in Cologne, and our first squad was set up fine across the Rhine River, mortars across the Rhine River, and we were using German ammunition, and one of the fellows that was dropping the shells into the barrel of the mortar held one over the barrel before one came out, and it exploded, and it killed about 5 of them. And wounded several.
Of your squadron?
First squad. I was in the 3rd squad.
Oh my goodness.
That was a moment that really upset us.
Oh, I'm sure it did. And how you said you were using German ammunition.
Yeah.
How did you come by using the German ammunition?
We captured it. The German ammunition was a 80 millimeter. Now we had charts where you could set that ammunition and use it.
Ah.
But our ammunition had two fuses, one in the back of it and one in the front and the nose. The German ammunition had just a safety fuse, and I say fuse, it was safety pins. Had one safety pin in the rear of it. So when it came out of the barrel of a mortar, it was ready to explode if it touched anything. Ours, when they came out, the pin flew out after it got up in the airways.
Oh, okay.
So that was the difference in the ammunition. And
so it was a lot more risky to use the German ammunition.
That's right.
If you didn't really know how
Well,
sensitive it
he was just in a hurry. He dropped one in the barrel and reached and grabbed another and dropped that before it got out, held it over the barrel.
Oh, I know that was difficult. Now, when soldiers died like that,
Yeah.
did you take the time? Did you have the opportunity to bury them?
I guess the next best time was when the war was over.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned earlier too that one of the jobs you had really prepared you for life after the military. So, tell me a little bit about what was it that prepared you.
Well, I followed sheet metal work all my years, and so the training I got in Auburn, and then I went to I done sheet metal work. And the layout work, I call it layout work, in Mobile in the shipyard. So when I got out of service, I cut down pine trees, sawed timber for a couple of months. And then I went to work at Sims Metal Works. And I was in October of '46. And then about sometime in 1948, I became what you call a shop foreman, well, supervisor. And I held that position until I retired in '87, the first time. Then in 1990, I went back to work full-time again and retired the second time in 1988, 89 at 88 years old.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a very long career. It seemed to really...
About 62 years.
Well, when you think back on the military, is there something that some way that the military itself prepared you for later in life?
Discipline.
Discipline? Okay. Tell me a little bit about the discipline that you had to endure when you were in the military. Would that be the discipline to follow orders?
Oh,
or
yeah, you followed orders and respected one that gave you orders.
And you just recently went on one of the honor flights to be able to see the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Tell me about that experience.
Well, we left Columbus about 8 o'clock, I think, in the morning, and flew to Baltimore, Maryland. And from there we caught 3 buses, and they had it broke up in the white bus, red bus, and the blue bus. And all the people from the valley plus some more were in the white bus, and we made the trip on to Washington, and we went to the World War Memorial, stayed there a while. Then we went to the Vietnam and the Korean Memorial, and stayed there a while. Then we went to the unknown soldier's grave and saw the changing of the guard. And by the way, we went to the Iwo Jima Memorial, Marine Memorial, and saw that.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some of them laid the wreath. Some of the Marines in our group laid the wreath there at the Marine Memorial.
Mm-hmm. I understand there were a lot of people in Columbus to welcome you back from the fight.
Yes, there were quite a few of my family were there. My wife wasn't, she wasn't able to go.
Mm-hmm.
But two of my daughters were, and their husbands. And
that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, but one of my daughters got out of the crowd and got over there where I was coming through the hall, and led me down through there.
That's probably a good thing considering how many people were there.
Yeah. And of course, we shook hands with everybody we could.
Mm-hmm. Well, during this whole time you were in the military, and you said your wife wasn't able to be there, but she certainly was back home during the years you were in France and Germany, and you were able to stay in touch with her. And of course, you had left a small child too.
Yeah.
Now, what was the homecoming like? And when the war was over and you got to come home to your wife?
Well, see, she lived out in the country, so she didn't know when I was going to come home.
Oh.
And I caught a bus from Fort McPherson in Atlanta.
Uh-huh.
And caught what you call a mill bus. They had mill buses at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And rode out in the country and knocked on the door.
You knocked on the door?
We woke her up and my daughter. And she was very surprised.
Oh. What time of was it during the night or early in the morning?
It was about 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my goodness. And she has no idea you're on the other side of the door. You just knock
no
on it.
idea.
Oh my. Well, now, was there any adjustment that you had to go through after being in the military for such a period of time?
To me, there wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I weathered it pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, what do you call it, was shell shocked.
Mm-hmm.
They were, but I was pretty well all right.
Well, now, have you, since you've been out of the military all these years, have there been any reunions of your former division or your regiment? Or
No.
There haven't? Okay.
No.
I was just wondering if maybe, I know you said that you had stayed in touch with some of the other soldiers by Christmas cards and letters, and I just wondered if you'd had a chance to actually visit with any of them in person.
No, they were pretty well far away.
Oh, okay. For all over the United States. Okay. Well, was there anything that, when you think about your military history, that you'd like to do differently?
No, well, I would have liked to made the invasion, but I was working at the shipyard at the time that happened.
Right.
I might not have made it though, so I don't know. Oh, by the way, there was 4 of us brothers. 3 of us were in Europe, and 1 was in Asia during World War II.
Oh my! Now, were you the youngest, or
I was the oldest.
you were the oldest of 4 brothers?
Yeah.
And all of you were in the service in World War II. You were all in World War II together.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And 1 was in Asia.
Yeah.
And the other 3 of you were in
Europe.
In Europe.
Right.
Did you ever see them during the military?
No,
You never
no,
saw them. Did you know where they were at the time?
I knew where they were, but you don't get a chance to see them.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was wounded, and he was probably back in the States before I got over there.
Oh, okay. And were the other two, were they wounded, or did they come through without any wounds?
So they were all, now the one in Asia was wounded. A truck turned over on him.
Oh.
I didn't know that until recently.
Really?
He was telling me about it.
Uh-huh.
The thing about it, we never talked about it.
You don't really?
We never talked about it.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Well, veterans I know, we never talk about it.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in general, do you have fond memories about, and proud memories about being part of the military during that point in time? Was that something you were happy to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
If somebody, young person asked you today, what you could tell them about the war and about serving the military, what would you tell them?
What I think is a good thing.
Mm-hmm. For the discipline that you mentioned before?
Yeah. Oh, now, I had 3 more brothers. There were 7 of us boys.
Uh-huh.
All 7 of us have been in service.
Okay, so 4 were in World War II.
4 in World War II, one was in Korea, and one was when there wasn't a war. Well, 2 of them when there wasn't a war.
So you have a strong military heritage in your family.
And my daddy was a World War I vet.
Wow. Well, now, did you have any children who served in the military?
No.
Okay.
I had a son-in-law who served in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that you can think of that you would like to share with us about your military service?
I guess that's about it.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you very much for participating in this interview and sharing your memories with us. And I want to thank you so much for your service to the United States.
Well, thank you.
Sacrifices that you made to do what you did, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wish I hadn't stammered so much, but.
Oh, you're fine.